And we're back on Inside the Ropes, and we are very pleased to have a lady on Inside the Ropes. We've had female stars before, from Trish Stratus to Mickie James, but now we're going to go back and speak to one of my favourites. She was part of Randy Savage's Madness team in WCW. She was a Holly cousin. She got her head shaved. She's pretty much done it all in pro wrestling. It is the one and only Molly Holly. Welcome to Inside the Ropes.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So yeah, I mean, what a career you had in pro wrestling, and I guess just kind of taking it right back to the beginning. When did you decide that wrestling was for you, and that was the avenue you were going to go down?
Well, when I first started, I didn't ever expect that it would be a career. I was just doing little local shows in Tampa Bay, Florida area for, $10, $20, and I just thought it'd be something where I could meet people and just, make a little money on the weekends. I never, ever expected that it would be a career for me. So I would say that it didn't really even dawn on me that it could be my career until Macho Man Randy Savage asked me to be part of his entourage on television.
And you were in the independent scene before you would meet Randy Savage. How did it come about that you would end up going from wrestling in the independent circuit to meeting Randy Savage? That seems like a huge jump.
Yeah, well, Leaping Lanny Poffo, who happens to be Randy Savage's brother, he knew me from the independent circuit, and Randy had told him that he was looking for somebody to teach his girlfriend how to wrestle. And Lanny said, "Oh, I know this girl. She wrestles locally, and she's good, and she's got a pleasant demeanor. I think she'd be a good fit." And so Randy Savage actually asked me to teach Gorgeous George how to wrestle, and that was really where I thought it would end as far as my relationship with Randy Savage and Gorgeous George. But sure enough, after working with her for about a month, he asked me if I'd like to be part of his team.
When you left WCW, how did you end up in the WWF?
Well, J.J. Dillon called me. He was kind of in either talent relations or some type of leadership role at WCW, and he told me that they were not going to issue the second year of my contract and that I was released. And I asked, well, how long do I have to wait until I try to apply somewhere else? And he was like, where? I'm like, the WWF? And he was like, oh, well, you can try to get in there right away. And he just kind of made it seem like good luck or something like that. I don't know. It was weird. So I had a plane ticket that was purchased from WCW to fly me from my house in Florida to the training camp in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, it turned out that next week, WWF Raw was in Atlanta, Georgia. So I just used the plane ticket that WCW bought me to fly to the WWF show in Atlanta to interview with Jim Ross. And so I talked with it was really Dean Malenko who kind of helped get me in the door there. And so I interviewed with Jim Ross, and he's like, yeah, well, we usually start girls out in one of the Godfather's hose. And I'm like, okay. And then he said, he's like, well, we'd like to offer you a developmental contract and see where it goes from there. And I said, okay, sounds good. And so I got hired right there on the spot.
Well done. I'm giving you a virtual high five through the microphone. Developmental, again, is really interesting because you went from going to WCW and sort of gaining this fame, I guess, as the character, and then you're now kind of not starting from scratch, but you're sort of being sent to developmental. How did you feel about that? Were you sort of positive attitude from day one? And what was that experience like going down there and going to Memphis?
Well, it didn't really hurt my pride much because all I was doing was at a training camp at the power plant anyway, so it was just like the power plant, but now a new location. So I didn't care. I didn't really even. I felt like I was ready for TV as far as my skills, but I understood that they want to develop a character, or they want to see where I fit in and see my personality and kind of get to know me so that they have a better vision of what they want for my future. And so I had a great time in Memphis. I didn't mind it at all. I felt it was I felt like I had an opportunity to kind of help some of the newer people And I also got an opportunity to learn. I mean, Tracy Smothers and there was a few other, I don't want to call them old-timers, but seasoned veterans that were down there just for their love of wrestling and to kind of learn from them. I certainly hadn't arrived at that time in my career, and so it was nice to be able to help the new ones, but also be new enough in my career that I could still learn from some of the veterans.
And you would eventually be back on television again as a Holly cousin with Bob Holly and Crash. How was that pitched to you? And when did you sort of how far in advance did you know? Like, was it one of these things where you just got a phone call saying we need you on TV on Monday, or how did that process go?
Well, they had brought me up to TV a couple of times to do dark matches, like with Jacqueline or Ivory, and I don't remember if they even gave me a name. It was like before the television turned on, so I think they just had me in the ring, and then they'd give an entrance to whatever the current superstar that I was going to wrestle against. And so I was backstage at one of the shows, and the seamstress came up to me, and she said, "Do you have an outfit that we can sew the Crash Holly symbol on?" And I was like, "What for?" And she goes, "Well, do you have an outfit or not?" I'm like, yes, so I didn't really know what was happening, but I gave her an outfit. And then about 2 minutes later, Dave Hebner came up to me and he said, "Molly Holly." And I'm like, just looking at him with a blank face. I'm like, I don't know why he just called me that. I've never even heard that before. And then he walked past me and I was like looking confused. And then Stephanie McMahon came up to me and she said, "Hey, we've got a character for you. You're going to be Crash Holly's cousin or Crash and Bob's cousin, and we're going to call you Molly Holly." And I was like, great. I'm a huge fan of hardcore and Crash, so I was felt really happy to be a part of their family.
Well, in 2001 as well, your character got taken away from the Holly cousins and put in a romantic relationship with Spike Dudley, which was a lot of fun to watch. How was that experience for you? Because it seemed to be a lot of fun to watch you guys together and bouncing off each other.
I could not ask for a better TV boyfriend. He was so respectful to me. Like he was wonderful to work with. He cared a lot about my input and how I saw things going and how we could act and work together. And so I think for a lot of people it's stressful to be put in some TV romance with someone you're not romantically involved with in real life. I mean, he was married and I was not, Like I was not It was never anything off stage that was romantic. So it's kind of an awkward thing in real life, but on stage, he just was, really made it work. And, it was great for me because he got to be in like a little angle with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And so I don't know if I would have been in that situation had it been for Spike. And so like I always say that one of the highlights of my career is I got to be stunned by Stone Cold Steve Austin, which maybe for some people would seem like a highlight, but I was pretty excited. Working with Spike was great. I also liked the fact that they had a storyline, that the people started to care, and that there was, what do you call it, like rivalry between the Dudleys and the Hollies, and it was kind of a Disney, storyline, but that's what I liked. I wanted to have something that, kids could watch and that was still could be just cheesy enough to be entertaining, but not so cheesy that adults are like, that's stupid. I really think that people liked it, and I liked being a part of it.
I know that you were with the company when the whole 9/11 thing happened, and you were, from what I remember, I might be getting it wrong, but I think it happened on like a Tuesday morning, and you guys were on the way to go to like a SmackDown or something, and they put it off for like 2 days, and you guys were kind of like stuck somewhere in the country.
Yes.
That must have been like a really bizarre experience, that this big thing's gone on, and you're sort of, I guess, kind of stuck on the road, having all this time to sort of contemplate before you're able to, work and then go home.
Yeah, so what had happened is that I am not a TV watcher. I almost never watch TV. At my home now, I don't even have a TV here, but I was in a hotel, and for some reason, I turned on the TV, And I was like, oh, it's one of those like action movies, you know, stuff gets blown up, whatever. I'm like, I'm sure it's a movie for guys who like movies, whatever. And I flipped the channel, and I'm like, they got the same movie on 2 channels. This is, you know, ridiculous. And I clicked to the third one, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not a movie. And so I'm watching it. I'm like, so I'm like, okay, something really bad is happening. So I shut off the TV. I drove to the grocery store. I bought a whole bunch of gallon jugs of water, a bunch of food, and put it all in my car, and then just waited, like, what's next? You know, like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to go to work? Am I not supposed to go to work? You know, so then we started getting, well, I think the phones weren't even working for a while. They were, like, so overloaded that the cell phones weren't working. And so, yeah, I was at a hotel in Katy, Texas, so I don't remember which major city that's near or where the SmackDown was supposed to be, but I was in Texas. And I was at the same hotel, or in a similar, on the same street hotels as Stevie Richards, Ivory, and Crash. And so we all kind of connected and talked about, like, what are we supposed to do? Or are we supposed to, you know, and then we finally got word that the next show that they were going to, have the show in 2 days, on a Thursday instead. And so we just stayed in Texas for 2 days until the next show. And then, of course, the show after that was in, I think, Nashville. So we had to drive from Texas, wherever, it was either Dallas or Houston or something like that, to Nashville. But yeah, it was, we were told that we were the first, like, large sporting event after 9/11. So a lot of things were canceled due to just the possibility of something bad happening in large groups of people. But I think that, yeah, it was just maybe 2 days after that we did that. And I know that we did, like, a little tribute, or got to say a little something on film. And it was definitely a memorable experience. I mean, to just wonder, like, am I going to be able to go home? How much worse is this going to get? And then to be away from your family and your, you know, friends back home, you know, it was challenging.
But I think it was later on that year that you would end up changing your gimmick again, and you were sort of like I don't want to use the word prude, but the character seemed to be like kind of a, you know, appalled by the rest of the women and, you know, what they were getting up to, and always, you know, taking all their clothes off and all that sort of stuff. How much creative input did you have into that character, and did you enjoy playing that role?
I hated it. It was awful. It was the beginning of the end of my good attitude, I'll tell you that. So the thing about me not being, like, super charismatic or sexy or anything, like, okay, so I'm not really that sexy. There's, like, I don't use sexiness. So as a good guy, babyface or whatever, they have to, you know, put me in something cheesy or funny, or girl next door, country bumpkin, you know, that type of thing. Uh-huh. So then as a heel, bad guy, if you're not sexy, if you can't be like the slut who destroys relationships or, you know, that type of thing, well, then what are you going to do to make people not like you? And so they just thought, oh, well, we did this right to censor thing before and that worked, so we'll just have you be kind of like a right to censor person. And I know that Ivory had done a great job with right to censor, and so really I just kind of took off of what they did. And I mean, I hated it. And I told them, I'm like, how long do I have to do this for? And they're like, no, it's great. The fans are super into it. You do an awesome job. You know, so I knew I was stuck in it because I guess they said I did it well. But I really did not like it. I know that some people love being the heel because it's like this alter ego and they get to play dirty, and, you know, there's like a certain fun to it. For me, it was not fun. Number one, I didn't get to, like, meet Make-A-Wish kids, and the fans would say really, really mean things to me. And I, like, you're fat, you look pregnant, you're, you know, like, just really tear apart, like, my physical appearance, which they're not. It's like, okay, well, they're just yelling at the character. They're not yelling at you. But, yeah, well, I don't happen to put on a fat suit and walk out there. This is me. This is like this, you know, this is my body and this is my face. And, you know, so to be, like, every day told what a piece of crap you are is, like, even though it's part of my job, it just sucked the life out of me. I'm like, this is not fun. So, yeah, by that time I did what I could to try to make it entertaining. And I really enjoyed the people I worked with, as far as Trish and Victoria and Nydia and, Gail. And there's just tons of people who I really enjoyed wrestling against that were baby faces. Lita, and, there was tons of people that were super fun because the fans were, in favor of them. Yeah. But in general, I'm just not cut out to do the whole heel thing.
It kind of seemed, from a fan's perspective, that because you were never going to be somebody that was going to say, oh, I'm doing Playboy this year or anything like that. Like, that just didn't seem to be your personality away from wrestling, from what people gathered. And it kind of seemed like they took this sort of, you seemed like, I could be completely wrong, so if I am, correct me, but you seemed like maybe in real life to be a sort of moral person who had certain beliefs that, you didn't want to be the woman who came out in bra and panties to get a cheer. And it seemed like they maybe took that and sort of made it a negative thing a little bit. And I guess that might be why it maybe was something that you just weren't comfortable, that it was sort of like exposing something that to you was a positive and sort of making it a real negative. Does that make any sense?
I think you have great insight. Yes, that makes perfect sense in that I feel that I feel like my values as a person, whether that's how I was raised or just how I choose to live my life, I feel like it's positive. Like, I don't have negative consequences from poor lifestyle choices. I don't have sexually transmitted diseases. I don't have, there's like lots of things that are positive about my lifestyle choices outside of wrestling, that for them to say that made me like a jealous, bitter prude is like, well, no, like, I don't care who does Playboy. That doesn't bother me. Like, people can do whatever they want to do. I don't, I would say that it bothered me only because, well, one of the reasons was really because exactly what you said, that I thought they were taking the things that I like about myself and making it seem like it was weird or bad.
But yeah, no, you had a great career there, and then you ended up coming back and doing the Battle Royal at WrestleMania 25. As well. Was that a case of you just kind of wanted to come back and see some friends and have one more night kind of as the Holly character?
Yeah, well, they had asked me if I would be a part of the Battle Royal, and I said, "Ooh, can I do the Molly Holly, the blonde hair character?" Even though I didn't have blonde hair at the time that they called me, I was like, that's the character that was like fun, and I really liked it. It just brought me back to the good times. So I said, "Can I play that character on the Battle Royal?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's fine." So I did, I wanted to catch, because there was maybe 25 of us there, which, by the way, I just want to mention, I was so upset that Nydia was not a part of that because she's from that town that was in, and I was, like, so mad. But anyway, I just wanted to, like, say, go Nydia, she was so awesome.
She came out with a sign.
So I should have, yes. So I thought, well, it'll be fun. There'll be tons of my old friends there, and we'll just give it a try. So I did it, and to be honest, I had about as much excitement as walking to my mailbox. I felt nothing. Like, here, I'm walking down the runway at WrestleMania, going past Kid Rock, and, like, I just felt nothing. No excitement, no. And then in the match, the whole time I was in there, I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, this is like, I don't know. I just, so I was, like, hoping I would get thrown out sooner than later. I'm like, somebody please put me out of my misery. So sure enough, Beth Phoenix grabs me, throws me over the top rope. And then I went home. And I was like, gosh, that is just confirmation that I am done. Like, that I just don't have more in me. I've already done it all. And so I'm glad that I did it, just to confirm in my own mind that my career had, there was closure there.
Well, it's funny because I think a lot of people were disappointed by that match because they wanted to see more of the women that were involved, and I think there was one of the Diva Search women. I think it was Joy Giovanni or something like that. She was in it, but like I never even knew she was in it. I never saw it at any point, because you never really got to see it. You just kind of had to sort of pick it. It was like a Where's Wally diagram. You're trying to catch somebody, but One story that I would love if you could tell us is Beth Phoenix has been quite vocal about how you helped her, and sort of credited you with her getting to WWE and having the great career that she had. Would you mind sort of filling us in on that?
Well, that's very kind that she gives me credit, but really she got into the WWE because she's super talented. I mean, so the way that it happened is that Tracy Brooks, Gail Kim, and Beth Phoenix were all wanting to get their big break in the WWE. And so they gave me, this is like sounds so long ago, a VHS videotape with their independent matches on it. And so they're like, we're big fans of yours, if we could just have you watch this. And so I watched it, and I was like, wow, all three of these girls are actually really good. And then I saw a promo, like with a microphone, that Beth Phoenix did, and I was like, man, she is super intense. She reminded me a little bit of like a Sherry Martel. She just had like this confidence, and I was just super impressed with her. So I handed the tape off to Tom Pritchard, that was in the booking office, I guess, at the time. And I'm like, gosh, you've got to see this. You know, all three of these girls are really good. And I really like this Beth girl. Her interviews are great. And so he looked it over, and, you know, so then the buzz kind of started that these girls were good. And so then they started to bring them in for dark match. Well, I don't know if they call it a dark match, but sometimes the girls they'd bring in people to kind of be around the ring in the afternoon for improvise. Like, yeah, there's like another word for it too that you use in the wrestling world. But, so then Johnny Ace John Laurinaitis would say, hey, you know, Molly or Nora or whatever, will you get in the ring and wrestle with so-and-so just for a few minutes, kind of see what they can do? And so I had wrestled all of those girls, and so then I thought they were all good, but I liked the way that Beth, there's like some, I don't call it the secrets of wrestling, but there's certain things you know when you're touching someone or when you're wrestling them, if they're like in the same groove or the same rhythm, or there's just like you just kind of know if it works. Mm-hmm. And I felt like Beth had that. And so I said, well, I think the best is the best. And now Gail's a good friend of mine. I'm not going to knock Gail. The thing about Gail is that she was too, I call it stiff. She kept hurting me. I'm like, ouch. Like, I don't know what this little girl is beating me up, like, for real. But yeah. So, but anyway, I was really letting management know, like, hey, this girl has got what it takes. And the icing on the cake is that she was so humble. She was ultra respectful, and she never put on airs and thought like, oh, well, I know how to do this and I know how to do that. And she wasn't out to like put herself over, I guess would be the term, or to, try to schmooze, and she wasn't like playing games politically to try to get noticed. She was just authentically talented. And so I think that her talent and her humility really made her stand out, and I knew she was going to make it. And then when they did hire her, and when she did eventually become champion, I was really happy that they saw in her what I had seen in her.
Molly, fantastic. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed going down memory lane with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has definitely been fun.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we'll talk to you again one day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.